Welcome to Dolani's Corner. My name is Dolani Ajanaku. I'm a third year psychiatry resident, and welcome back to the channel. For everybody that's been here before, thank you for coming back. I hope you subscribed, I hope you liked, I hope you shared, and I hope you reposted. And to everyone that's new, welcome, welcome, welcome. We love every additional person to this family. Please refer to the introductory video for more details about what we're talking about, what I'm about, why am I providing this information, and basically what the goal of this channel is, right? So welcome, we're all one big family. Please, before anything, subscribe, okay? Subscribe, like it, post, comment. I also have an Instagram, I have a Facebook, and I have a Twitter. So please reach out. All of that is going to be down here, and also it's going to be in the description box. So today is our first real official conversation about mental health and all the other mental illnesses included in. And so welcome. So before we talk about anxiety, it's important to be able to separate mental health and mental illness. So let's try to make it like really simple. Your mental health is kind of similar to what your physical health. You go to the doctor, or you're supposed to. Half of us don't, but you should. You go to your doctor for your yearly checkup. Your yearly body checkup, what's going on? Is there anything in my body that I should be aware of, that I should pay more attention to? And during that visit, they'll let you know, okay, things are still looking normal, or hey, we found something that's kind of like out of the ordinary that we need to be putting a little bit more attention on. Your mental health is a lifetime thing. Your mental well-being is a very lifetime journey. It's something that was with you from childhood. It's something that will be with you to the day you die. It's something that you're going to be more aware of as you probably get older. And that's basically your social well-being, your emotional well-being, your psychological well-being. Mental illness, on the other hand, is conditions that are present, right? Kind of like for physical health, people that have diabetes, they have an actual medical illness that's now affecting the normal way that their body's supposed to be, like reacting to sugars and things like that. Mental illness, kind of some things like anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, substance use, a history of a traumatic event happening, causing like PTSD. These are things that are now affecting your mental well-being, and a lot of these things, honestly, is just a matter of knowing it exists, finding the right kind of treatment, looking for help. And a lot of things are actually treatable. But anxiety, there are medications for it. Depression, there are medications for it. There's therapy. There are other resources present. So that's really the difference. Mental health is your journey through life, and it will be with you forever. And that's your well-being, your mental well-being, right? And your mental illness is conditions that are not present. So for people, is it possible for somebody to have good mental health, like good mental well-being, good social well-being, emotional well-being, and now have periods in their life that, hey, there's a mental illness that is not present? Yes, it's possible. It's possible for you to have a good level of well-being, and now something happened and you have depression, something happened, you have anxiety, and it's for a period of time, it's more temporary, and being able to solve that and you move on. So mental illness does not really define people as a whole. So please, let me just put this there, right? Let's not say, she has anxiety, he has anxiety, and that's all they are, right? That's all their being is. People are more than their mental illness. Let's stop, let's try and destigmatize things. Mental illness exists, but there are more than that. People are people. People have other things to be able to contribute to society. Mental health is just as, if honestly not more important than physical health. It's everything. It's really, your mind is so beautiful, your mind is so amazing, and protecting that is so important. Kind of like the same way I feel like, I have to be healthy, I have to be physically fit, I have to watch so many different levels, and we don't pay enough attention to, hey, do I have peace of mind? Am I in a good space? Am I protecting my mind? And so many things are contributing to mental health. There's so many different modules, there's so many different ways of explaining it, because I think a lot of people, and a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of people that are involved in psychology, a lot of people that we're really very attentive to just the human being. everybody has tried to explain and try to understand mental health and what contributes to it. And honestly, let's just first start from here. There's no such thing as average mental health, right? If you're average when it comes to mental health, it's not that good. The goal is to be above average, because what's included in the average is healthy and also unhealthy mental health. And given the fact that, you know, there's been so much stigma basically meaning that like people have made it like so negative to discuss, like, you know, psychiatry and mental health issues, mental illness, seek help and things like that. So the average of what is considered, oh, you have an average mental health, I don't even know what that really is, but the goal is to have a good mental health. And honestly, does that mean that, like, am I at the good, you know, level of mental health? No, most likely not. I actually honestly don't think I am. I think a lot of people aren't. I think a lot of people are probably not even average. So we're all in this struggle together, right? So that means that there are things to work on, but does that mean that there's something innately wrong with you? Does that mean that at your core you're messed up? No. That just means that we have something that we have to attain, like kind of look up to. And that means, honestly, half of us need to be in therapy. Let's just all sign up for therapy because it's important. We have so many things, and I'm going to delve into, like, you know, the things that contribute to mental health, but a lot of people, it's rare to even achieve this good mental health unless you're really open and you're honest about your struggles. And I think that's something that we all have to do, myself and you included, right? So it's me that I'm talking to you doesn't mean that I don't have my struggles. It doesn't mean that, like, you know, I'm there. It just means that I'm able to see these things, and we're going to call it to everybody's attention, and we're going to work towards being a better us, towards having good mental health, towards being able to be open and free about discussing everything, anxiety, depression, all these things. So identical twins, they typically share a lot of like genetic traits because they're identical. They're one egg that kind of split apart. And we do realize that in identical twins, when you separate them and have them live in very different environments, they still are almost emotionally similar in certain ways. So that goes to show you that there is a genetic component to your well-being. There is a genetic component to your mental health. And yes, I know a lot of us are like, yeah, I didn't pick my parents, I'm just here. Low-key, they didn't pick you either. But I'm not even gonna go into that table to be shaken. But we are where we are who we are, and there is a genetic component to mental health, right? So outside of, you know, just trying to have above average mental health, which we're all still struggling with, the other component of mental health is maturity, right? So given that, like, you know, as time goes on, time is a very beautiful concept. As time goes on, a physical healthy 70-year-old has probably better mental health than a 30-year-old, because that's just the concept of time, right? And these are just different explanations. Does that mean that, you know, this is like had and 120% accurate? Probably not. Like, we're all just kind of trying to figure out ways to better define it. And this concept of the older you are, the more mature you are, the more your brain synapses. So there's a biological component to this, right? So the more like your brain pathways, your neural pathways, right? For people who are more scientifically minded, there's more maturity in it. There's more development there. So a 70-year-old man has more mental health maturity than a 30-year-old man, or a 30-year-old woman versus a 70-year-old woman. And that's just like the concept of time. And that's also partially because of like the stages of time. And this is assuming that, now before I go into the stages, I'll put it out here. This is not something that everybody is going to reach at a specific age. There are age groups as to when you should reach these things. And that doesn't mean that, you know, everybody's going to go to follow these orders. Everybody's slightly different. But in the beginning, right? So my teenagers, as a teenager, there's a concept of identity. Whew, the identity crisis is a thing. I was a teenager. I've been there. We've all been there. And the concept of trying to figure out, who are you? What do you believe in? What are you doing? What do you think you are? How do you perceive yourself? Identity. It's big. And even there's a lot of adults that really haven't figured out their identities yet, and that causes like a completely different stressor. But as a teenager, you really sit there and you're just kind of like, yo, who am I? What do I believe in? What do I want? And this is like, and that's a normal behavior at that phase, trying to figure out your identity. And then after your identity, we kind of make it past that to figure out, okay, this is me. you know, my name is Dolani, like this is Dolani, this is what she likes, this is who she is. And then once she hit like this young adulthood stage, it's the concept of intimacy, and that is relationship forming. It may not exactly be romantic relationships, but a lot of us liken it to romantic relationships. Sometimes it's just relationship, just having that intimacy with, it could sometimes even be asexual, meaning that these aren't things that are like romantically driven, but just having that partnership, just being able to develop these connections with another individual or another community. So it's not just even just one person. Sometimes it's just being in a community where you feel like you've been able to develop this intimacy with them. And then around that same age is the concept of career. We're all in this phase right now, and I'm there too with you. So like my age group bracket, we're here. The teenagers, you're going through your identity. I've kind of went past the identity, and you know, we're still trying to work that out to a certain extent for some people. But we're in this like intimacy and this career consolidation stage. Do I have a job or do I have a career? What's the future looking like? Did I achieve something? Can I call who am I? Like, you know, I'm a doctor, so that's a career to a certain extent. For some people, it's a job. And honestly, we put too much pressure on ourselves, because a career can also honestly be your wife and your mother. That's fine. A career could be your entrepreneur. A career can also be your figuring it out. So this is like that young adult phase where you're trying to figure out intimacy and also trying to figure out career. And then you move on and you get to like generativity, basically trying to look at the next generation. So once you figure out the career, once you figure out the intimacy, it's mentorship. Like, you know, you're trying to kind of leave a legacy to a certain extent. Who can I mentor? And this is more of like our parents' generation or my parents' generation, right? Like maybe the 50s, I want to say. Mentoring, because you're almost preparing for that late adult stage. Because the thing about life is, once you make it, for the people that make it to the late adult stage, they experience a lot of losses. People die, their friends die, they become a little bit lonely. And what they also sometimes have to hold on to is the concept of, did I mentor? Did I make a change in the generation? What is the generation behind me? How are they going to perceive my life? So the generativity stage is really where, after you've gotten the identity, you've got the career, you've got the intimacy. It's the giving back stage. It's the nurturing the generation behind you. And then at the end of the day, when you're getting closer to death, because when there's life, there will be death, it's the concept of integrity. So you see a lot of, and that's why like the concept of like mental health is maturity. The way a 70-year-old man who's went through life will process life's issues, will process mental health issues, is different, usually, from that of a teenager, from that of somebody that's in their mid-20s or 30s, because they've just went through multiple phases of life and they see things completely different, and they're at a point in their life where it's just more or less making sure that they have something to leave behind, that they have a legacy of some sort. So as time goes on, your mental health should mature. We're all maturing at different stages. It doesn't have to be, because listen, I'm Nigerian, and the concept of like the cultural stresses, you should be married at this time, you should have a career by this time, you should be making this much money at this time, you should be out of your parents' house by this time. We give each other like too much, like, you know, hard deadlines. But I think it's very important to really understand that there are phases in life and we're all going through it, and it's okay if your age groups are a little bit more ahead in those phases than you are. All that typically really means is you're on your own time. We're all on our own time, and we're all eventually going to get there, and in different ways and different routes, and that's fine. Just being able to understand that, like, you know, you're not going to go through life the same way your friends may be. That's perfectly fine. It's okay. We need to make that more acceptable. Mental health is also self-well-being, right? And that is the absence of misery for some people. It's also the presence of contentment. Are you content? Let's ask that question. Are you content with yourself? Are you content with your being? Are you content with where you are right now? Are you content with who you are with? Are you content with life in general? And for a lot of us, that's no. For other people, that's yes. For other people, that's maybe. And maybe I need a little extra. You were fine. So part of the huge and big negative effects on social well-being, psychological well-being, emotional well-being is comparison. Comparison. And honestly, I think back in the day before social media, it used to just be like, oh, you look at your neighbor, you look at the person across the street. Now we're comparing ourselves to everybody. If they got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything you can see, you're comparing yourself. And that has made anxiety so much worse. It's made depression so much worse. And those are things that we need to pay attention to. So I'm not saying that don't be ambitious. Don't get me wrong. Be ambitious, be driven, be goal directed, be everything that you can be and better. But if that's coming from a place where you're comparing yourself, then reassess yourself. Kind of sit back and really think, is this me, or is it that I'm trying to be better than this person? Is it that I'm really chasing purpose, or I'm trying to make sure that I'm one step ahead? Because all of these play a very, 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 very big role in our well-being. And that's basically your mental health. So let's leave that aside, because I feel like we're shaking multiple tables today. Mental health is also your resilience, because the reality is life happens, life will happen, things will happen unexpectedly. Medical conditions that you never thought you could possibly have, or that your loved ones could possibly have, will happen. Money leaves, people lose jobs, people lose things in life. Depressions, they happen. Resilience and mental health is so big, because when your mental health is in good state, you're able to adjust, you're able to adapt, you're able to be exactly that, resilient. You're able to just be like, okay, this is happening right now, but I'll be fine. I'll be able to make it through this. I have the coping skills, not the maladaptive one that we'll eventually talk about, but good coping skills to help me get through this life situation.